there were times when there was just one person sitting out there. And I remember the Holiday Inn one night, we were playing this Holiday Inn, there's an old man sitting out right in the middle of the place, nobody else around, and we were up there. We got to do our 4 sets, don't matter whether it's one person or 500 people sitting there. And I'm playing it. We played a set, and we're just into it and really doing our own thing. And I walk out and I walk by him, and they said, "Young man, come here." He said, "Can you sit down for a minute?" I said, "Yes, sir." I sat down, and he said, "You look like you really enjoy what you're doing. I like the way you sing. Don't stop living your dream." He said, "Is this your dream?" I said, "Yeah. I mean, I love music, you know." And he said, "Don't quit, because I had the dream of doing what you're doing, and I stopped and I let it go." And he said, "I became a salesman." He said, "It's made me a good life, but I never did what I really wanted to do. And so I'm sitting here watching you enjoy this so much. That means more than any money you can put in your pocket." And he said, "Do what you enjoy, do what you love."
Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms. And of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. It's funny how we measure success. Sometimes it's the Hall of Fame. Sometimes it's awards. Sometimes it's streams. And sometimes it's just a willingness to keep going when the lights go dim. Welcome back to Curious Goldfish. I'm Jason English. You know, we talk a lot about the choice to be curious instead of being judgmental. Today's episode is one that really tests what it looks like to stay curious about your own life when the path changes. And this conversation hit home for me. I grew up in a house where Southern gospel music and the Statler Brothers were part of a constant background soundtrack. My parents played those records and tapes until they were worn out. They're both in their 80s now, so sitting down with a man who was such a massive part of their lives for so many years felt like a full circle moment. I'm talking about the legendary Jimmy Fortune. Most people know him for his 21 years with the Statlers, but what fascinates me is the grit behind the voice. Long before the awards, he was grinding it out on the Ramada Inn circuit, playing those hotel lounges where you really have to earn the room's attention. Then he hits the pinnacle by joining the Statler Brothers. And then at 47 years old, the group retired. He had to go back to his dreamer mindset and completely reinvent himself. We dig into the grit it takes to start over. He was honest about his nerves. We also talk about his latest project, Story of an American Dreamer. It's a book and a live DVD that doesn't shy away from the rough edges or the quote-unquote God things that pulled him through some very dark seasons. It's a story about faith and the perspective you only get after decades on the road. So now, from Hendersonville, Tennessee, here's country music Hall of Famer Lester James Fortune Sr., or Jimmy. Let's dive in.
Hey, Jimmy.
How you doing, Jason?
Good, man. It's so nice to meet you, man.
It's really good to see you too, brother. It really is, man.
We are here in Nashville on a beautiful day, fall day. And yeah, man, I've been looking forward to this for so many reasons. You keep pretty busy, so I appreciate you making time for me.
I've been going like crazy. We've been all over the place. Good Lord's allowed me to have a great career after all these years. After 23 years with the Statler since the Statler Brothers retired, I've been out here on my own. I was with them for 21 years, so I've been doing this a long time. And so we're out there, you know, just trying to get out there and bring a positive message to the world, you know, and music. And, you know, God gave me that gift, and I've been trying to share it.
No, that's awesome.
Trying to share it with people.
Can you believe you've been doing your own thing longer than you were with the Statlers?
That's hard to believe. It really is, because the Statler Brothers years went by like a flash.
Yeah.
But it was great, man. I got to meet all my heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys literally saved my life back in 1982 when they hired me.
Yeah.
I was playing music in Virginia 6 nights a week, 4 hours a night, and had a daytime job and another part-time job on the side. and I was working myself to death, and I had no idea I'd get a call out of the blue from the most awarded act in the history of country music, the Statler Brothers, at the time.
Yeah.
And I went over and auditioned, and it was just a long story, but they hired me, and it turned into a 21-year career.
Yeah.
And with them, and then they retired, and had to start over, at about 47 years old. I think when I was 47 when they decided to start over, and I mean to end the career of the Statler Brothers, to retire. And I was like, man, where do I go from here? And here I am, 23 years later, still working and
still doing it,
recording and writing books, doing all kinds of things,
Well, congrats. I was going to ask you about that moment when the Statler Brother run ended. Did you have other options that you thought about, hey, the music thing has kind of served its purpose? Or did you always feel like you had another run in you?
No, I always felt like I wasn't finished yet.
Yeah.
I just felt like there was a lot more for me to do. Because, I promised them that I would stay with them for, until they wanted to end it, but I didn't know it would come in then. I thought we might go another 5 years or so like that. But when they said that, I had a dream where my father had passed away back in 1994, and about 2000, I dreamed about my father. And in the dream, my father told me I was going to be on my own. He said, in this dream, and I'm like, what are you saying? And he said, yeah, you're going to be on your own. So get ready. And I remember just crying and holding on to my dad and telling him how much I loved him and all this stuff. But he said, you're going to be okay. And I woke up and I was like, man, and I was like, what did that mean? What? And then in 2002, they called us together and said, hey, we're going to retire this year. And what are you going to do, Jimmy? And I thought about that dream. And I said, well, Daddy told me I'm going to be on my own, so I guess that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of went out and started. It was trial and error. You never fail until you just stop.
Yeah.
So I figured I had a lot of places where I could have stopped and just said, I had walked off stage and said, I don't want to do this anymore. But something just kept driving me, and it was the fact that I had to believe in myself and believe in my cause. And so I did. I just felt like there was a place in the world for me and just singing and my music to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so I did. And I've enjoyed it. I feel like when I got a lot of gypsy in me. If I stay home for any length of time, I want to get out and I can't stand it. I got to get out and go. Got to be somewhere. Got to be doing something.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I feel that way because. I think sometimes I see people just sit down and stop. And when you do, it just seems like life just starts just overcoming you. But next thing you know, you just disappear into wherever, And so I never really want to be that person. I always want to do something.
Yeah.
And even if I can't sing, I want to be involved in music. I'll be playing my guitar or something, Got to do something.
That's awesome. That's a great lesson for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look back on your career, we hear the term eras talked a lot, right? So you've got probably like 3 major eras of your life. Mm-hmm. How do you look back at that, and are they 3 sort of separate periods? So with pre-Statler Brothers, Statler Brothers, and post.
Yeah.
Or are they all connected? In a spiritual way, or in a
they're kind of connected in a spiritual way, but they're all 3 separate eras really. Because there's stories. There's so many stories in the part where I'm out there on the road, not on the road, but in Virginia, playing the Holiday Inn circuits, Ramada Inn circuits, and all that stuff, doing top 40 music. And,
wow.
And traveling to these toward D.C. and then back to Central Virginia area, Charlottesville, Lynchburg, Waynesboro area, up there, and playing those little clubs and things like that. That's a whole different thing, a whole different story. then you're getting hired by the Statler Brothers, who are a quartet, and I wasn't that familiar with quartets. I knew of some gospel quartets and things like that growing up, but I wasn't familiar with that. I did listen to the Statler Brothers on the radio, so I kind of knew their stuff because they're from Virginia, so they're like bigger than life. So why not, listen to them? And I was always drawn to the tenor part, which was Lou DeWitt's part, and and it was almost like this whole thing was like a roadmap laid out in front of me, and I didn't know where to go, but somehow or another there was something guiding me to that, and I think it was just a higher power
Right.
than me. You know, my mama's prayers probably was helping me through it, but then the process with the Statler Brothers, being with them in 1982 to 2002, that was a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But it was also something where I sat down and said, this is where I'm supposed to be. I felt like I needed to be there to help them continue on with another, how far they wanted to go.
Right.
And I needed somebody at the time to look out for me. Like I said, they pretty much saved my life because I was burning the candle at both ends in between. And when they hired me, all of a sudden I could work one job and get paid good money, you know, for it. I felt like I'm one of these guys that won the lottery. I mean, you know, it's just like what. But I was a little bit on the redneck rich side too, so I was like, like I had a lot to learn. I was green, man. I was green. So then I just started with them, and it took me to places. I met people that I never dreamed of. You know, you're sitting in Washington D.C. in the White House in the Oval Office with President Reagan,
Right.
doing things and talking to President Bush after that, and we were up there, and I'm sitting there. This kid from Virginia that was in the middle of nowhere, all of a sudden seeing these people on TV, and I'm there with them and talking to them, and thinking, how did I get here? You know,
Yeah.
I really didn't know how, and I was a little overwhelmed with all of it, and still am when I look back at it. And then when the Stattlers retired, I figured I had to move to Nashville. It was hard to make anything work out of Stanton, Virginia, where I
Sure.
was living. When the Statler Brothers got their break, they went on the road with Johnny Cash for 8 years. So I had already been with them for 21, so I felt like, well, this is kind of like that. It's kind
Sure.
of like that. So now I need to do what I got to do. And so then I did. And like I said, it was a slow start because there were times when I went out there and I said, without the other guys with me, and it was totally different. Everything stripped down to where you really find out who you are and where you are and what you are.
Yeah.
And then you've got to really believe in yourself because sometimes it's really. I remember one of the first gigs I had was in a fair in New York, and I went out there and I came through the gate and I said, well, you're playing down there on this track, and there's two little speakers set up and a microphone on the racetrack, and there's a whole grandstand there with about 100 people in it, and behind the grandstand there was a demolition derby going on with 5,000 people there, and I'm sitting there going, you know, I'm playing my little guitar and I'm going, yeah, thank you, I'm glad I'm here, but why am I here?
Yeah.
You know, and I asked the guy, I said, why did you hire me to come here? He said, I'm a big fan of yours. I said, well, okay, but I said, this sure don't do much for my ego, I can tell you that, because you know, but I had those things that but I had really pray about things and in my heart, and I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with my spirit, and sit down and say, you know, well, he's like, you know, whether there's 10 people out there or 10,000, do the same thing.
Yeah.
And you know, try to live a positive life and try to bring hope and to people that say, hey, just because you're 50 years old or whatever, 70 years old, 80, 90, it doesn't mean you can't do something.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't just go. If you affect one person one day, you're in a positive way, you're making progress, you know.
Do you think did you suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome? Because I think I recall a story that maybe it was your first gig in Arkansas, I think, where you went out and first time and your legs started shaking and someone rolled out an apple or something on the stage to distract you to kind of calm your nerves. But did you feel like you didn't belong?
Yeah, the Oak Ridge boys hired me after the Statler Brothers retired. They called me up and said, I had done a few things around here and there, but they said, hey, you know, they were really good friends of ours, especially Joe Bonzel, who was a tenor singer for the Oak Ridge boys. Him and I, because we shared so much in common. He passed away a little over a year ago, and man, I miss him so much. But he encouraged me and said, hey, why don't you come out and bring your guitar, just get out there and open some shows for us. And it was somewhere in Ohio. I think we were up there, and first gig out, and I was talking to him about, kind of being really nervous about going out there and being out there in front of those people by myself.
Right.
In front of that many people. There was about 5,000 or 6,000 people. And I started playing, and I'm in the middle of the first song, and I was really getting nervous and dry mouth, and I looked down, and my britches were shaking. Like, I mean, literally going like I'm like, am I gonna? I may just set this guitar down and just walk off stage because I'm so nervous. I can't believe it, And this apple came rolling out and hit me in my leg and dropped on. I'm like, what was that, And here comes another one, and people start laughing. I look, and Joe Bonzel's off to the side over there. He saw I was nervous. He knew, so it broke the tension. And after we laughed and everything, he came out and waved at everybody, and I went on. It was like, okay. It just kind of made me calm me down a little bit and made me feel okay. Yeah. And later on, I thanked him for that. And he said, well, he said, you were doing so good, I was trying to mess you up. I wasn't trying to. But anyway, and from that moment on, I just kind of put one foot in front of the other and just kept going.
No, that's great. Well, I think you're the first member of the Country Music Hall of Fame that I've had a chance to interview, but also first person that I'm aware of that did the Ramada Inn circuit.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day. So what is that like?
Well, back then, you could make a good living in a small town playing music, because I grew up mainly, first of all, in churches and things, and where I did gospel music. But then as time went on, I started listening to country music. Then I listened to rock and roll. And then I listened to top 40. I listened to everything, disco, did it all. And so when when you go into those places, you have to be learn all genres of music. And because somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I want to hear Your Cheating Heart, Hank Williams," and then I want to hear it play that funky music, White Boy, and you gotta and you do it, you just get up there and you do all that stuff. And I was a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah.
I didn't really master anything. I just kind of did things where I had a lot of great musicians around me, and the main focus was on my singing, and of course, and so at that time, I never had written a song because I didn't think I had a reason to write, because I was just doing other people's songs. And I enjoyed it. I mean, as long as they were enjoying it,
right,
I was enjoying
right.
it. It wasn't like I was going out there and saying, oh, God, I got to play this song because blah, blah, blah. There were times when there was just one person sitting out there. And I remember the Holiday Inn one night, we were playing this Holiday Inn. There's an old man sitting out right in the middle of the place. Nobody else around, and we were up there. We got to do our 4 sets. Don't matter whether it's one person or 500 people sitting there. And I'm playing, and we played a set, and we're just into it and really doing our own thing. And I walk out, and I walk by him, and he said, "Young man, come here." He said, "Can you sit down for a minute?" I said, "Yes, sir." I sat down, and he said, "Look," he said. You look like you really enjoy what you're doing. He said, I like you. I like the way you sing. He said, don't stop living your dream. He said, is this your dream? I said, yeah. I mean, I love music, And he said, don't quit. He said, because I had the dream of doing what you're doing. And he said, and I stopped and I let it go. And he said, I became a salesman. He said, it's made me a good life. But he said, I never did what I really wanted to do. And he said, and so I'm sitting here watching you enjoy this so much. And he said, that means more than any money you can put in your pocket. And he said, do what you enjoy, do what you love. And he said, don't quit. And that old man,
that's amazing.
And that, I'll never forever forget that.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah.
Well, because a lot of musicians, they kind of dread the whole gig where you have to do all the covers.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I want to play my own stuff, but obviously he saw the joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though he was out there, and I always tell, young kids that are coming on today trying to, playing or whatever, doing what they love, it doesn't matter who's out there, put your best foot forward.
Right.
Because do the best you can, because you never know who's sitting out there.
Right.
Who's going to hear you and say, hey, I've got a good gig for you, or hey, I might want to sign you, I might want to blah blah blah.
Yeah, you never know.
And for years and all, I didn't have any big offers or anything like that, except for when the Statler Brothers came. I never won a talent contest. I never won any kind of contest that I ever entered in. I remember the first talent contest I entered. I had a little band and we played it, and we had got into the first song, and the one of the judges was going like this. I'm like, man, dude, come on, man, we were doing good, you didn't have to do that, and but it didn't destroy me, I knew in my heart. I knew we were good, I really did, and I knew that we had a little thing worked up and everything, but for some reason, I never let things like that bother me. I always pressed on, and said, it don't matter whoever's sitting out there judging you. Who is that? One person, two people, three people judging you on what you can do.
Right.
They don't know. I mean, it's the overall people that are out there. When they hear you, and all of a sudden people start coming, and
that's awesome.
And you're doing something to move people. Those people are out there that can judge that not just one or two or three people.
Yeah.
And I always knew that in my heart.
That's awesome.
So that's what kept me going. I just said, you got to believe. You got to believe in yourself.
Well, you've used the term dreams and dreamers a few times so far. So I think your latest project or an accomplishment as a solo artist is this project called the music's Songs of an American Dreamer,
right.
And then we've got the book here,
Story of an American
Dreamer,
right
and then you've got a DVD. That also goes with it. So CD, book, and
all
and
of
the
it goes
DVD.
together.
All of it. I guess how'd that? I'll call it. I don't know if it's trilogy is the right term, but how did the package idea come about? And if I can ask you, what are you dreaming about these days? What is it? Is it family? Is it you? Is it country? Is it what are you dreaming about?
It's the dreams have never stopped. And they're just, and not just necessarily dreams. It's like when your thinking process is, you can't just sit still. You got to break new ground. You got to, just always keep the creative juices flowing or something, And, but the book came about years ago. People would say, hey, you need to write a book. And I would like, I don't want to write a book. I'm not a book guy. I just don't, I said, why do I want to write a book? And then, but they kept on and kept on and kept on. And well, I moved into my neighborhood 20 years ago, right next to one of the most prolific writers in Christian music, Dave Clark.
Dave Clark, yeah.
And he kept coming to me saying, hey, you write your story, And I'm like, I don't know how to write, so just tell me the stories. He said, I'll put it all together.
That's awesome.
And so for the last 8 years, we've been getting together, and I tell him stories, and and about a little over a year ago, we started putting those stories together, and in the timelines and the time frames, and he interviewed, hundreds of people about different things, because I always say there's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. So we would always get other people's opinions on the same story that I might be talking about.
So you fact checked you.
How did they see it, and how did I see it? And then we put it all together and try to come up with the best, version. And so the book came about that way, and it's really been. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't have any idea it'd be selling like it is.
That's amazing.
It's really, really selling big time.
So in that process, were there moments and or memories from childhood or even throughout that you had unintentionally maybe tucked away, that through this process you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and it resurfaced? Something that, does anything come to mind there?
There are a lot of those moments, because every story led to 100 more stories. And you had to figure, how far do I go with this?
Yeah.
At some point, do you tell everything? Because it's like you go down a rabbit hole. There's so many rabbit holes when you start writing a book.
Yeah.
And you have to figure in your mind, if somebody's reading this book, are they going to, if you go down that rabbit hole, is it going to take them too far where they say, okay, I'm done with this, put it down.
Yeah.
You have to it's kind of like writing a song in a way, and only you got 3 minutes to write what you feel in this song, right? And and it's a whole different process. But when you're writing a book, it's kind of almost the same. You can linger on something for longer to tell the story, but you can't go too long because you drop their attention. And so that's what we try to do. So there's every story you read in there, there's probably another 100 stories to go on.
Oh, jeez.
And that people keep telling me, "Yo, gotta write another book now." I'm like, "Oh God, no."
Yeah.
But I literally could go back and take that book and go from some of those stories and write another. I don't know how many books.
Yeah.
But it's but what the book led to me doing which was kind of a unique thing. I wanted to do something different this time. I was with Gaither Music, and I talked to them about it. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a DVD that coincides with songs that coincide with the book.
Right.
And doing them in chronological order, kind of type thing. And then when I did my project, I wanted to go in the studio, and I wanted to record all the music and tell some of the stories and record it all and video it. So I'd have a DVD and a CD all at the same time.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and it all went down live. There was no overdubs.
Yeah.
There's no nothing. It was all raw. And that's the way I wanted it. I wanted rough edges. I don't want to see no AI coming up in there. I mean, although AI is incredible, it is an incredible thing.
Right.
And I hear some of the stuff and I go, man, but it sounds so perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I said, when I do mine, I want to have some rough edges. I want it to be real because I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And so when I present it to people, I want them to feel every little crack and crevice in that song, you know. And so that's how we did it.
Yeah.
And it saved, first of all, it saved a lot of time, saved a lot of money. And I think it came off because people seem to really enjoy the realism of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're losing in music today. I'm not complaining about it. There's some of it I love.
Right.
But I think we're losing the realism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what's real
Yeah, exactly.
in life?
Yeah.
You know, when you look at your telephone, you look at the Facebook, what's real and what's not, you know? Now when you hear your music, and you hear it on the radio, is this real or is it not? And some of it doesn't sound real. And in the process, I don't care how perfect it is, you can feel what's real, what's not.
Well, speaking of real, Virginia is real.
Yeah.
The Shenandoah Valley is real, right? So I started my career actually up in Winchester.
Oh, really?
I wrote for a little newspaper back there when I started a journalism degree. So I miss Virginia. I live in Georgia now, but the seasons of Virginia, the history of Virginia. And one of the songs that I wanted to ask you about is, I think it's called Earl Song, Virginia Dreams. And I love how you put, the mountains of Virginia know my name.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that and what Virginia means to you. And, you know, the history, like the music history of Virginia is insane, right? Down in Bristol, you know, with the Carter family. And,
right.
Just still the Statlers that you mentioned, I guess, you know, how important has Virginia been to you?
Well, I mean, I was there 49 years of my life, born in Williamsburg, Virginia, grew up in Nelson County, Virginia, and I got to know Earl Hamner, who was the writer and creator of the Waltons. He's a voice you hear on there, and he was just a beautiful, beautiful person's Southern gentleman. The voice that you hear on the Waltons on the show is him talking, and it would always draw me in. And I got to know him through the years and be friends with him, and we'd share stories about growing up in Virginia. And I went there when they did the little film of his life and autobiography of his life and everything, and got to know him really, really well. And so I was thinking of him. I'd already written a song called Virginia Dreams, and I had that in my head. But I thought about him, and I thought about me, and I thought about life kind of took him away to L.A., to New York, to L.A., and how he would talk about coming back to Virginia and how much he loved it. I felt the same way. I came to Nashville, and I love Nashville, but I just had this longing for those mountains and a longing for those stories and longing for those people. So when I go back, you know, a lot of those people aren't there anymore. It's different. And you find out the place is beautiful, and what you loved about it is still there, but there's also a lot of it that's gone because those people aren't there anymore, you know. And I thought about Earl, and that's why I called it Earl Song, because I thought, even though I was writing it, I felt like I was kind of saying something for him too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I like how that it really covers a lot about Virginia.
Mm.
And it covers a lot about his life and a lot about my life. But life somehow keeps taking me away. But I go back in my mind to those Nelson County times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just those things that you have to write about. And you feel like, I think people have related to that because they may not be Virginia, it may be North Carolina,
totally.
maybe Tennessee, it might be California, who knows. But I think people relate to that, the fact that all those memories you grew up with and the things that life can take you away from it. It could take you on the other side of the world.
Right.
But you always, every time I hear the Waltons theme, it takes me right back to Nelson County.
Just
every
right there.
time. And so it's things like that that move people. But I thought a lot of Earl Hamner and his family. He was the original John Boy. He was.
That's awesome.
What the stories were all about. And
one of the interviews I did with a singer-songwriter actually based in Nashville, he told me once, he's like, everybody has a complicated relationship with the place that they're from, which I thought was a great way to put it, because we all have home. Sometimes home is forever. Sometimes home, you know, you go back to. But yeah, I love the fact that those roots are still part of you, even though you've been in Nashville for decades. Yeah.
I love Nashville. Nashville really embraced me when I came here.
Yeah.
And the musicians and the singers, I don't care whoever, you know, from Jelly Roll to David Frizzell or to Bill Anderson.
Yeah.
They all, when I see them, they all welcome me and put their arms around me and say, hey, and it's just such a great feeling, because it's like, man, the respect that they show you is incredible. And I think the really good thing about country music is most of those artists, new artists and old artists, they don't forget who you are.
Yeah.
They love each other. They pull for each other. There's none of this stuff about, you know, it's almost like family. It really is.
No, that's awesome.
So, like I said, coming from the Statler Brothers, because we were there they were there for their whole career.
Yeah.
They didn't have to come to Nashville.
Yeah.
And so in some ways it took care of itself. The whole business, the whole thing with the Statler Brothers, and that's amazing that they had a career and never had to move from their hometown. It's such an amazing thing.
That's awesome, yeah.
And it's very unusual. But like I said, I tell young kids today that are trying to get into business, the first thing I say is, you know, if they got talent and I feel like they're good enough to do it, I say, you got to go to Nashville. You got to get in there, and you got to write with the best people. You got to sing with the best people. You got to pick with the best people, and make those connections. And I said, the music, if you love it enough, you'll stay in there. You'll take care of it, and it'll take care of itself. It'll come.
That's awesome.
And I remember back in 1985, I had a knock on my door one day. It was my cousin, who was a coach at JMU in Harrisonburg, in Virginia. He said, Jimmy, I hate to bother you, but I got this kid you got to hear. He said, he's so good. He said, I really think he's got a lot of talent. Need some advice. He said, this is Phil Vassar. And I'm like, well, Phil, I said, well, come on in, buddy. And he came in. I said, I got a piano downstairs. Let's go down there. And I said, he played piano. And he got on the piano, and he started playing and singing. And I mean, I was like blown away. I said,
jeez.
Well, I said, the only thing I can tell you is move to Nashville, get with the best writers, the best players, the best singers you can get with, and start down there. That's where you got to start. And I said, if you want to make it, I said, you have the talent to do it. And I believe that with all my heart. And he did. He moved down here, and he did exactly that. So whenever I went on my own, and I called him up one day and I was talking to him and I said, "William, what do you think I ought to do?" He said, "Move to Nashville, get with the best singers and songwriters," and he gave me the exact same advice.
Came back around.
And so I did.
Yeah.
And Phil, man, what a talent, man. He was then and still is today a great talent. But it's funny how that stuff.
Yeah.
Your advice you give somebody else comes back around to you one day.
Well, when you live long enough.
Yeah,
it's
if you
bound to
live
happen,
long
right?
enough. So I don't know. That was 20 years. Actually, that was 40 years ago.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
40 years ago. Can you believe it?
No, man.
And he's had a wonderful career.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of mentorship, I think you've talked about Lou DeWitt basically saying, when you joined the Statler Brothers, it's important that you make a place for yourself rather than trying to fill Lou's shoes, right? So if you think about that, and then think about the topic of mentorship, have you been able to, that's a good example, right? Are there mentees that you're working with today at all, or through the years since you left the Statler Brothers?
Yeah, I think I work with a lot of people like Mike Rogers, which is he could be my son really.
Yeah.
He's one of the most talented guys I've met in Nashville since I've been down here. Met him, not long after I moved here, and we started picking and singing together. And I've always kind of mentored him. And Jamie Daly of Daly and Vincent, Jamie would tell me that he listened to when he heard Elizabeth, that made him realize that that's what he wanted to do.
Oh man.
He wanted to sing, he wanted to do that, and he's become a wonderful, wonderful singer. I don't have to give him any advice because he's so good anyway. And I don't really have to give any advice to Mike because they've got the talent.
Yeah.
I just tell them to it's just simple. If you love it, do it.
Yeah.
And you don't, it doesn't matter. But if you think about getting rich, that's the last thing you want to think about, because you think about the love that you have in your heart for and your purpose,
right?
And you do that, and you put that in place, and the money will come one way or another, and you'll be satisfied. You don't have to be the richest person in the world.
Right.
Make a living. If you make a living, you come to Nashville and make a living. That's success. That is big success.
Yeah.
If you don't have to go out and work 3 or 4 jobs and try to do it and still trying to do it, it's hard. But if you can make a living doing what you love to do, I don't care what it is, really.
Sure.
That's success,
Yeah.
And but you have to love it, and I don't care. You can try. If you got it in your heart and it's such a big thing that you want to do, you can try to stop it, but that desire is always going to be there.
Yeah.
And you got to make your mind up whether, okay, and that's okay. But some people just have to say, okay, I got 2 sons, basically 3 sons that can sing and write and they can play, and they're really good. They're as good as anybody in the world. But I've talked to them and I've said, if you want to come to Nashville, I'll help you, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They got kids, and they said, Dad, you see these kids, I want to spend as much time with them as I can. And they love what they do, but they that's what they, and I love that, and I respect that, because I had to miss so much with them growing up.
Sure.
And when I think about it, you have regrets about things and everything, but they don't hold that against me. They understood, and they've said, okay, we love you, Dad. It doesn't matter. We know you're doing what you loved, and you're trying to get out and make a living for us and help us, and they've forgiven me for that.
That's great.
For all my shortcomings, but my children have made up for every shortcoming I've ever had. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Because I got really good children. Yeah.
So there's so many things I want to ask you, but just in not wrapping up, but just a few more things on that topic of purpose and kind of all that. I'm surprised you haven't used the term God things yet in this interview, because I know it's probably sprinkled throughout the book. In all the interviews that I've seen, you talk a lot about God things. I guess my question on that is, do you think God things happened to you when you were on the Ramada Inn circuit? Do you think they happened to you when you were singing the casinos? Can
I
God
think-
things happen like before you
Sure.
make a decision to follow,
Yeah.
Jesus? And
I do think that, but it all goes back to, we are part of all those who came before us. Does that make sense? And then I remember as a kid playing by myself when we were in a real rural area, and I was swinging on a grapevine out by a river, and I felt this presence with me all the time. And I asked Mom, I said, as a kid, I said, and she said, well, it's God. He's with you. And she said, she said, I pray for you all every night, and every day. And she said, my prayers are living things. And she said, she said, whether you like it or not, I have prayed for you, and God is all over you. She said, no matter what. She said, but no matter what you do in life, if you do something wrong, don't run from God, run to God.
Run to Him.
And she would tell me that.
Yeah.
And so she really drove that home with me. But I strayed big time. I mean, when I got to be in the Holiday Inn circuit and college circuit where I was playing rock and roll and playing, I got into all that. And but I always had this thing. I knew when I was wrong. I knew when I was doing wrong and did it anyway.
Sure.
And I was like, but one day I had a really, really come to Jesus moment. And there have been a lot of God things in my life. And like I said, I just felt it as a kid. And even when I was doing wrong, I felt that, I was straying away from God. And I knew that every time I did, I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like that feeling of the separation.
Yeah, separation.
And so whenever I had just about lost everything, my daddy was dying with cancer, and I had gone through divorce,
right?
And I had just gotten down to like, man, this life is not working out here the way I want it to. And I really had to have that come to Jesus moment when I said, I got to have you in my heart. I got to have you to clean this out, to keep me grounded, keep me attached to you, and whenever those things come up in life, picture him there, and it's lay it in my hands, Jimmy.
Right.
Lay it here, and I'll take care of it. I had to do because, and if I didn't, if I went the other direction, that separation, I hated that feeling. I hated the feeling of being separated from the Spirit of God. You know? And so whenever I made that commitment, my life started changing, boy. But there were things falling away from my life too. There were things that I lost my dad.
Sure.
Went through a divorce. I went through Statler Brothers retired. I went through all these things. But then God has brought things together in a positive way and made everything work out.
Right.
Even though you have consequences.
Sure.
I still have consequences of the wrong things I did in my life. But God has helped me overcome, and He has said, okay, you made mistakes. I forgive you, but keep on the right path. Don't be separated from me anymore. And I don't want to be. Now I look at those things, and man, you just can't stand yourself for some of the things that you actually thought about in life and that were important to you that aren't important to you no more.
Right.
And that's the hard part, forgiving yourself. But when the bottom line is, if God can forgive you, if Jesus can do what He did for us, then you can forgive you. Are you any better than He is? No.
Right.
Are you any better? And the answer to that is no. And so you have to forgive yourself. And you may not forget because you're human. We do remember, and we, but God forgives and forgets.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for that, because sometimes I think forgiveness and grace are the most important words in the universe.
Yeah.
Redemption.
Yeah.
Because if there's not that, then there's nowhere to turn around in life. You're condemned forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
People make mistakes.
Yeah.
So if you make mistakes and you're going down that road, there's no such thing as, if there wasn't for forgiveness, then you're going down the road to no end and to defeat.
Right.
But when you have forgiveness, and you realize it, that you're forgiven in the grace, then you go to a positive place in life. And I think that's, I know
Yeah.
that's what happened with me.
Yeah.
And why I have felt so many God things. My mother's prayers, like I said,
Sure.
she said, and I tell my children and my grandchildren, I said, I have prayed you under the grace of Jesus Christ, and you can't do a thing about it.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not.
So what's your message to skeptics that would say, okay, it's cool to talk about God things when things are going well, but bad things happen to good people and to believers, non-believers. I mean, again, you lost a son about a year ago, right, to pneumonia. And so what's your message to people like, well, Jimmy, like, what about that? Because,
Well, life is life.
Yeah.
And when God created us, he created all of us, man. What we don't realize is, we go back to Adam and Eve. We brought sin on ourselves into the world, and in order to make it what it is, there's good and evil. I mean, it always has been.
Yeah.
When you look at everything in life, it's two things. And we have it inside of us. And so, like I said, I lost my son. I lost my dad, my mom, my son. 2 brother-in-laws that were just like brothers to me, and my brother just a couple months ago passed away, my youngest brother. And the only thing I could say about that is we're not exempt to any bad thing. Just because you say I'm a Christian, just because you say I believe in God, it doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen. But what it does mean is I have hope.
You have hope, yeah.
I have hope, because without that, we don't have anything.
Right.
So if there's a rope hanging down in front of you and you said you can grab that rope to save your life.
Right.
Or you can not believe that rope is there and just don't grab it and you're going to die. And eternal death. I'm going to grab that rope, hope.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold on to it. And that's what I've done. That's the only thing that's gotten me through it, because I couldn't deal with losing my son. I loved him so much, and I miss him like there's no tomorrow. And if I didn't know that, I would, in my heart, that I have a possibility to see him again.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have that hope, and it would be really hard to deal with. But I have dealt with it because I have that hope. And it helps me, because if I didn't, I think I would have gone down a road of, I'd be so depressed I didn't want to do nothing.
Yeah.
And what drove it home when I called and I asked to talk to my son, and this nurse answered the phone and said, Mr. Fortune, your son just passed away. Mm-hmm. When they said that, I lost it. I lost total control, and I was in a place where I don't even know what I was doing. But I had a grandchild, a little granddaughter that reads the Bible, and she loves the Lord, and she was 6 years old at the time. And she saw me on the floor crying, and my heart was breaking. And that little girl ran over to me and grabbed me by the face and held my face in her hands, and she said, Papa, he's not dead, he's with Jesus. He's with Jesus. And when she looked at me with that seriousness, and my heart just I said, yeah, you're right. And I got up from that moment and I said, you know what? I dust myself off, because he's not suffering anymore. He's with Jesus. And I did the same thing with my brother. Life is hard. It's not easy for a lot of people. And a lot of people have had it a lot harder than I have. And a lot of people had it harder than my son or my brother. But no one's exempt from it.
Yeah.
And the only way to have any kind of positive outlook is to say, this life is short. I don't care if you live to be 100 years old. It's still short.
Still short, yeah.
And you have to have hope.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I guess to wrap up, I ask everybody this. So I'm really excited to hear your answer to this. So we were talking beforehand about sort of the purpose of this podcast around curiosity, right? I think curiosity is similar to forgiveness. Mm-hmm. It's underrated and so important in life, because life is short, right? So given your, 50 years playing music, and I think you're in your, just turned 70, I guess at this point in your life, what are you most curious about?
Oh man, I'm curious about where the world's going from here. Like I know in my heart I'm ready. If something happens, I've had a good life.
Yeah.
And I'm curious when I see what's going on. But when I read the Bible, and you can read the Bible in Revelations, and it kind of tells you things that are happening, and you go, isn't it pretty wild, the things that are going on, and the things that are really, I mean, this book was before, before the world was created. The Word was God. The Word was with God.
Right.
In Genesis, and you see through time, oh man, just how things have progressed, how God destroyed the world at a couple of times because of man's inability to do things right, and so I see where it's going, and I wonder, and I'm curious about how long God would let it go on. The coming of the Lord knoweth no man is what the Bible says, and I believe that with all my heart. And I believe in, like I said, forgiveness. I believe that God has watched us, mankind, go through time, and when he sees it gets to a certain point that it's no turning back, that he's got to fix it.
Yeah.
And he does that. But he has, so many times a man has been to the brink of going down that road of man, and we're kind of getting close to that, you know? I feel like that. And so I don't know how long it's going to go on, but I know at some point, if we don't turn back to God and start having some kind of morals in our lives and doing things the right way, having some kind of rules and some kind of guidance.
Sure.
Because we come a free society where we do everything we want to do. Anybody can do what they want to do. It doesn't matter. And I think that's what gives Christianity a bad name. People think sometimes, well, you're a Christian, that means you can do what you want to do, and God's going to forgive you. I said, no, he will forgive you, but you have to make an effort to turn away from that. You can't keep going back doing the same things over and over again, because you have to, when you become a Christian, you're not going to want to do those things anymore.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
But people look at people that are Christians and that say they're Christians, and you keep going back and doing the same thing over and over, or even things worse. And then they look at, why don't I want to do that? Why don't I want to be that?
Yeah.
I understand them looking at that and seeing that. But us as Christians, when we're out, I mean, we have to live a life of, that don't mean that, I'm a stick in the mud and I don't have fun with life. I have fun with life.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a good time with life, and I love living, and I love laughing, and I love people. More than anything, my biggest gift is loving people, and I think that's been the reason that I'm here today. But man, I just think it's just important that we, and I'm curious, like I said, about that. But I don't question what God has a plan. But I would be curious to know how it all turns out, and I would be curious to know when people get, when you get to heaven and all those things that, bad things happen to good people, to say, hey, why is that sometime, and I would be curious to hear God's answer for that. But I think I understand, because he created us. He gave us a will. If he didn't give us the will to do wrong or right, you've got a choice to make. Yeah. And in the process of giving us that, he knew that the only thing we would understand was sacrifice, and that he had to sacrifice something because he had to feel what we feel. So he gave, his son, sent him to earth, and he let him feel what we feel. Yeah. He felt lost. He felt unloved. He felt all this thing, and then he felt physical pain when they crucified him, and all that, and he stayed till the bitter end, and did it to say, hey, I have felt what you feel. He didn't want to create something and say, I can't create it and let them just be there doing whatever. I have to feel what they feel. Yeah. And he did that through his son. Yeah. So that gave us, when we look at it and go, hey, you know how we feel. You lost a son. Right. And you had to sit there and watch him and feel that pain and the suffering that he went through. And it was a tremendous thing that he went through,
Yeah.
and hard. So if I can't sit there and watch my son go through that, I
Right.
would say no.
Right.
I'm not going to let my son go through that for nobody.
Right.
I couldn't,
Right.
but God did.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for your time.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you for your
Thank you,
music.
Jason. Absolutely.
Thanks for all the songs, the lyrics,
Yeah.
the moments. You've lived a life, and hopefully there's a lot more. I guess I'd love to hear some music. Would you like to play a song?
Sure.
All
Yeah, I
right.
can do that.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
I appreciate you.
buddy.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Fortune, and I'm going to do a little song for you right now called Earl Song, Virginia Dreams. Come with me and I'll take you away to a place I knew yesterday, where wildflowers grow and peaceful rivers flow, and the blue mountains mingle with the stars, and the memories that make you you are, where the mountains of Virginia know my name, but life somehow keeps taking me away. But I go back in my mind, back to those Nelson County times. Virginia dreams, they always take me back. Virginia dreams, there's no other place like that. No matter where life takes me or how far away it seems, I keep holding on to my Virginia dreams. Yeah, I've roamed this whole world over, you know I've been everywhere, but when you see those Blue Ridge Mountains, no others can compare. Like the tall trees on the mountainside, my roots are buried deep in the rivers and the valleys of my Virginia dreams. Virginia dreams, they always take me back. Virginia dreams, there's no other place like that. No matter where life takes me or how far away it seems, I keep holding on to my Virginia dreams. Yeah, I still hold it sacred, this place that I call home, 'cause I love to ride the back roads, smell the fresh hay mowed, from the mountains to the ocean, that great Atlantic shore. They hold everything I dream of, yeah, I couldn't love it more. Virginia dreams, they always take me back. Virginia dreams, there's no other place like that. No matter where life takes me or how far away it seems, I keep holding on to my Virginia dreams. I love to feel the wind blow through the tall pines and hear the pretty sound of a whippoorwill. I love to smell the lilac in the springtime. Oh, I still see me running through the fields. Virginia dreams, they always take me back. Virginia dreams, there's no other place like that. No matter where life takes me or how far away it seems, I keep holding on to my Virginia dreams. Yeah, no matter where life takes me or how far away it seems, I keep going back to my Virginia dreams. Virginia